All right, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, ashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluh. Welcome, guys, to the African American Muslim Alliance of Tampa Bay, our weekly Islamic classes. I'm your brother Shahid. Just to kind of go over what we're going to be talking about today, with Ramadan about 60 days away, we are going to be studying the fiqh, or the laws, or the rules and regulations of fasting during the month of Ramadan. We will be covering the text of the Risala, the translation and the abridgment of the Risala of Ibn Abi Zayd. It is a introductory Maliki fiqh that was a book that was originally made for children, but in our day and age, this is a book that we have to go over to understand the fiqh, again, the rules, the regulations, the injunctions of fasting. So we will be listening to the audio of the Maliki Sheikh Rami Ansor as he explains the fiqh of fasting during the month of Ramadan. So yeah, it's very, very, very important information that we have to master. Okay, let me go ahead and give me 1 second to get this Instagram live up and running. Alhamdulillah, a lot of my students like to go and listen to the information that I have on the live. So it's very, very, very important for me to get this up and going. Give me 1 second. All right, Assalamu alaikum, guys. So what did we cover last week? Last week, we covered about the establishing of Ramadan, the actions that must occur for us to establish Ramadan. So what do we know about Ramadan? Well, we know about the Islamic calendar. In the Islamic calendar, the months are either 29 or 30 days, and the length of the month is judged upon the sighting of the new moon. Okay, the sighting of the new moon. So as Muslims, we should be going out on a consistent basis. And I'll be honest with you, for me, this is something that I don't do. There's a website, moonsighting.org, that I follow, and that follows the month. But we should know what month we're in. It's on the Islamic calendar, and we should know that the Islamic months is either 29 or 30 days, based on the sighting of the new moon. Okay, so the month before Ramadan in the Islamic calendar is Sha'ban. And so we know, as we monitor the month of Sha'ban, we go on the 29th night of the 28th night of Sha'ban, and we look for the new moon. Okay, the 29th night. We look for the new moon. If we see the new moon of Ramadan, then we do fast, right? Then we know that the Ramadan has begun. Okay, now this is the fast. Now the month of Ramadan, if we see it, we see the new moon, we should fast. Okay, it's moved on to another month. If we do not see the new moon, we know that Sha'ban is 30 days long. Okay, and so the next day, the 29th, after the 29th night, we don't fast the next day, and then that night we go out and we sight the new moon. Okay, so this is how in the Islamic calendar, how we move from month to month. Now, during the month of Ramadan, for the month of Ramadan to be established, that requires the fasting, there's several ways in which this is verified. So first and foremost, Ramadan is verified by having two just witnesses, men, right? Two just male witnesses that see the new moon and report to the community that they have seen the new moon. Okay. And then if you have two just upright male witnesses of the new moon in your location, your locale, then you fast the month of Ramadan. Okay. Next, what they said is that if a large group of people see, Salaam alaikum nidal, if the vast group of people see that the new moon, right, then that is also a way in which we establish the beginning of Ramadan. And what he talked about is what we don't do, right? We do not follow the sighting of those off in a distant land, right? Nor do we follow any random sighting. Okay. Now it goes into, give me 1 second, guys. Give me 1 second. All right, sorry about that, guys. Let me continue. So we were talking about the sighting of the new moon during the month of Ramadan, and what establishes the sighting of the new moon. So yes, so it's either 2 just male witnesses or a large group of people. Okay. Now, but we don't follow, and as I was mentioning, we do not follow the sighting of a far distant land, right? And so if we actually do this, it'll really negate and stop a lot of the inward battles that happen as far as when Ramadan begins. Okay, so now we're going to move on to the lecture, the video, and we're going to touch on the intentions, right? What or to, because we know that the Prophet Muhammad has told us that our actions are based on intention. So let's go ahead and begin. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim.
The intention. Because the intention is a condition of the fast, you should make an intention to fast the whole month at the beginning of the month, and it is not necessary to make a new intention every night for the rest of the month. So once we know that Ramadan has been established, you make the intention, and the intention is in the heart. You don't have to actually speak it. You just realize in your heart that you're going to fast this entire month. Once you do that, once you make the intention to fast the entire month, then every subsequent night, even if you don't make it present in your heart that you're going to fast the next day, it's considered a valid fast, because your first intention counts for the rest of Ramadan.
Now, it is recommended to renew the intention every single night, but it's not a condition to make the subsequent fasts correct. And he mentions there in the commentary, he speaks about the other situation. One intention being good for the entire month is as long as the fast has not been interrupted by an excuse. So if a person gets sick during Ramadan and can no longer fast, say he gets sick for a week or for a couple days and he breaks his fast, now when he gets healthy and able to start fasting again, he has to renew his intention. He can't say, well, I had the intention the first night and then he's just going to pick up. He has to have the intention. If his fast was interrupted due to sickness, due to travel, because during travel it's not obligation to fast. Even if you fasted during travel, which is recommended to do and it fulfills the obligation, even if you fasted, you said, it's not that hard, it's not a hardship on me, I'm going to do it anyway. When you're traveling, you have to renew the intention every night. Or if a person is sick and he has the excuse to not fast, but he chooses to fast, he also has to be making the intention every night. So really...
Okay, so we're talking about making the intentions, right? Once it has been established that Ramadan has begun and we're going to fast the next day, the first thing that we do is that we make our intentions to Allah to fulfill the obligation of the Psalms, right? That is an obligation that Allah has put upon us to fast the month of Ramadan. And it's not something that you say, audibly with your mouth. It's something that you say in your heart, right? You make that intention in your heart. I make the intentions to fast the month of Ramadan. Now, if there's nothing that comes up during this month, right? You're not traveling, you don't get sick, that is enough. Now, what he say is that it is recommended, right? It's recommended that you renew your intentions every day, but you don't have to, though it is recommended, right? So it says he should formulate the intention with his heart the first night of Ramadan after sunset and before dawn, or at dawn, as an act of nearness to Allah Almighty, by performing what is obliged of him during the day and refraining from eating, right? So that's staying away from food, keeping up with your prayers, doing your reading, right? And you must refrain from eating, drinking, and intercourse. It is not obligatory to make the intentions for the rest of the days. Malik says the intention must be made at night, and that is stated by Ashafi and Abu Hanifa, because the days of the month are individual acts of worship separate from one another. The invalidation of one does not invalidate the other, and they are not impaired by what is contrary to them at night, like eating or drinking or intercourse. So what they're saying is that if you make your intentions to refrain from these actions, from the eating and drinking and intercourse, and then you partake in these actions at night when it is permissible for you to eat, drink, and have intercourse with your wife, right, or your husband, make that clear, right, then that is not invalidating your initial intentions. No, brother, I had it on pause for a second, but thank you, Ibrahim. Thank you for your concern, and thank you for being here. I really, really, really appreciate it. Can you hear me? All right, let me make sure. Can you hear me now? Let's see. Okay, I don't know enough about it. I hope I'm not muted. Let me look at this and see. Here, 1 second. Okay. Ibrahim, if you all right, if I'm muted, just let me know. Give me, I guess you can't hear me if you do know. If you can't. All right, so let's continue. So it is obliged to give day an intention for the fast, as is obligatory to have an intention for every prayer. The evidence in the Maliki school is the word of the Almighty. So every one of you who is present at his home during the month should spend it fasting. This is Surah Al-Baqarah, ayat 185. This is based on what the author of the Sunan reported in the words of the Prophet. Whoever does not intend the fast before dawn has no fast. Advancing it is overlooked of the fast because of the difficulty. Ibn Naji says the literal word of the words of the Sheikh is that it is not obliged for someone who breaks the fast, like the menstruating woman, to renew their intentions. That is the case according to the Ashab and others. There remains the sick person and the traveler when they continue to fast. They are obliged to make the intentions every night because it is not obligatory for them to continue. When the sick person becomes well and the traveler arrives, the intentions of what is to remain is enough for them, like the menstruating woman who became pure and the child who reached puberty in the fast, and the kafir who becomes Muslim during the month. So what this is saying is that if there's a natural reasoning that you had to break your fast, for, like they said here, the woman that is menstruating, if the child who reaches puberty is not fasting, and then at the beginning of the month they fulfill the conditions to be mukallaf, and now it is obligatory for them to fast, then they make their intentions, right? And they don't have to make up what they were missed because it was not obligatory for them to do before, okay? And then, like they say, but if you are traveling, if it is obligatory for you to fast, and you are traveling in which you have the dispensation of not fasting, right, while you're traveling, when you do fast, every day you should renew your intentions. And then when you return to your home, it's as if, right, like the menstruating woman who was fasting had to break her fast, but continues on to her fast. Okay, so let's continue.
The principle is, if it's an obligation to fast consecutively, one intention counts for the first day and then you can use that intention for the rest of that time. If it becomes that the fast is not an obligation to do consecutively, or it's broken up by either menstruation for a woman, or lakia, or childbirth, or sickness for both males and females, or for traveling, then once he starts fasting again, he has to renew his intention, and then it's good for the remainder of Ramadan. So anytime there's a break in the fasting, you have to renew your intention. Oh, and then as far as questions, if there's anything that's not clear and it's like pertinent, like to exactly what we're talking about, just write it down on a piece of paper and pass it up. If it's something kind of related to it, also pass it up, and we'll deal with that at the end of the class. But if there is something that, like I mentioned, and sometimes I go a little bit quickly. If something's not clear, go ahead and if it's not clear and you just need me to repeat it, just say, could you repeat that? If it's a question, write it down and then pass it up. So far on this page, is everything clear? So then the duration of the fast. وَيُتِمُّ الصِّيَامَ إِلَى اللَّيْلِ. And then the fasting starts from the dawn, and the dawn is...
Okay, we're going to cover this material in the next class, the duration of the fast. But I do want to talk about what it says here as far as other preconditions, right, to the fasting. Of course, we have our intentions, okay? The preconditions are Islam, right? The fasting is not obligatory on a non-Muslim, right? It's that's one of the conditions of the fast. Should they fast? Of course, they should also accept their Islam, right? They should accept their Islam. So that is a very, very, very important point. Okay, that's one of the conditions. Condition number 3, sanity. Okay, we know just like the prayer is not obligatory on someone who has lost their sanity. And then, of course, once they regain their sanity, they must remake those prayers. But for someone who is sane and a Muslim, right, they must continue and have the intentions. Okay. Number 4, being free of menstruation and lakia, right? So we have menstruation, of course, that is the monthly cycle for the woman. And the next is postnatal bleeding. Okay. So if a woman is in that condition, if she's in that condition, the fasting is not obligatory upon her. When she frees herself, or she is freed from those conditions, then the fasting becomes obligatory upon her. Condition number 5, refraining from things that break the fast. And that's one of the points of like taqwa, right? Keeping yourself away from incidences or situations that may cause you danger, right? So knowing what can break your fast and refraining from those things, staying away from situations that might put your fast in jeopardy. An example of that is going swimming during Ramadan, right? There is a chance that the water might enter into your mouth and hit the back of your throat, right? So during Ramadan, during the fasting days, right, day of Ramadan, you refrain from that, because the chances that if you're swimming and water gets into your mouth, there's a high probability of that. So, I mean, of course, if there's a necessity for whatever reason, then you have to fulfill that necessity. But going to the pool and frolicking during Ramadan, no, it's best to stay away from that. Number 6, the ability to fast. I'll say like my mother, she takes very important medication that will do her body harm if she does not have that medication, right? So in that case, she doesn't have the ability to fast, right? She doesn't. Now, of course, you have to have a doctor's, say, oh, I get headaches, right? Like I'll say in my situation, one time I forgot to take my blood medication, and it was the fasting was coming on, and because I hadn't taken my blood medication, and for whatever reason it got extremely high, right? I remember I had to break my fast that day because the fast should not put you in harm's way, right? It should not put you in harm's way. And so I just had to make that day up, because of that reason, and those are permissible reasons. And we'll talk about what's owed when you have to break your fast. And then lastly, number 7 of the preconditions is adulthood, right? You have to be legally responsible and be considered an adult for the fast to be necessary. Okay, so inshallah, we're going to start next week with the durations of the fast. So I just wanted to, let me look at this real quick. As far as the video goes, we are on minute 21. We're minute 21. Right here. All right, so inshallah, we'll talk about that on Wednesday, and inshallah, I'll be back at 7 o'clock for those that are watching the video. I'll be back at 7 o'clock, so we don't miss out on any of this wonderful, wonderful, wonderful information. Okay, guys, thank you guys for coming. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, ashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluh. Assalamu alaikum. See you guys Wednesday, 7 p.m. Assalamu alaikum.